Shall I just start? Fuck you, Mickey, so I'm not staring right at Jen. Well, here we are on the 20th of January 2021 at my favourite skate shop, The Void in Brattleboro, downtown Brattleboro. Mickey here is one of the people that makes this place work. All sorts of cool stuff. What we're going to do tonight is Mickey's going to talk about some music that he likes, and we'll let the thing spin out from there. Before we go into that, I feel like I should acknowledge the fact that we now have a new president today, with a wonderful Kamala Harris as the vice president, and that seems like something I never thought I was ever going to see in my lifetime. The other thing I was particularly wanted to mention is we've just witnessed the storming of the White House by a bunch of right-wing thugs. And that the whole premise of Rock Against Racism is based around the idea that if you're involved in the arts or music or whatever, and you're against racism, then it's a very simple message that we say no to that, and we do everything in our power to enable us and our society to move forward to a day when the question of race is at least not the main issue. If I'm right, I think the last time a bunch of right-wing thugs armed to the teeth stormed the White House, it was the British. I have no truck with the British ruling class, and I'm quite sure that if I had been in this country at that time, I certainly would have been in favour of the American Revolution with all its warts and all. But I just wanted to acknowledge that because it is a historic day, either way you count it. So we'll just start talking about some of this music that you picked out, Mickey.
All right. Do you want me to just start with bands or?
Yeah, bands.
Okay. For me, music that has really changed my outlook on life or helped me through a lot of hardships or just whatever it is, anything that I could go through that's negative that I want to turn into a positive. I would say that hardcore music's had a very positive input on my life in a lot of ways, which to certain people they may not understand it because it's aggressive music and it comes off as negative, and if you don't understand it, it can be a very weird thing to see or experience if you're in the room for it. But for me, that music really did help put a lot of positivity into my life. And meeting people at shows that felt outcasted in school, they didn't fit into the norms of being a jock or whatever else. You kind of find your little herd or whatever you want to call it, and it just feels right. So band wise, I would say being from Connecticut, there's a lot of great bands there that I'm lucky enough to come from the state that they're from. One of them would be this band called Death Threat. Their music is very, very, very much about the apocalypse, the end of the world, being against the government and racism and all that stuff, standing up for your friends and what you think is right in life, and staying by that. And so that would be probably one of the biggest ones for me.
When did you first come across them? Where did you see?
So I have an older brother who got me into a lot of the heavier music that I listened to, and he showed me bands that kind of helped put me down an avenue to find my own. And when I was a kid, I didn't really know what I was listening to. If I heard something, I would just think, oh, it's punk, or oh, it's metal. And then as you get older, you start meeting people that are into it. It kind of learn what it is, what it actually is, where it stands within all of that stuff. But I was probably like 17 or 18 when I really started listening to that band, and it just kind of went from there. I've listened to them pretty much every day since then.
It's amazing how some bands just stay with you, and
Yeah.
the experiences that you have at any given moment can really sort of feed into that whole thing.
Definitely.
Are they still around? Are they still?
They are. They kind of, they don't really tour as much anymore. I'm lucky enough to be friends with a few of the guys in the band, so they're all older guys now. They have wives and kids and full-time jobs and stuff, but they do play shows. Yeah. They are around.
Yeah, it's an area of music that I'm woefully ignorant about. But that's the whole thing for me is that what's interesting about these little interviews that we do with rock against racism is that I get to hear someone else's perspective on it. I'm not trapped in my own little glam rock bubble.
Yeah.
So are there a couple of others that you
Yep. Another one would be a band called Madball from New York City. I have them tattooed on me. I love them so much. It's just one of those bands that they have. If you listen to their music, it almost has like a hip hop rap feel to it, in the way that the singer and the music is composed, and the way it comes out has a lot of flow to it. It's very rhyme oriented in a lot of ways. The singer has a very nice flow with the way he says stuff. So there's them. I've been lucky enough to play with that band a couple times.
Right.
And I don't want to say that I know the members of the band, but the ones that I have talked to have been very, very nice. And that's honestly what I love about the type of music is, these bands are huge legacy bands, and even with that being said, there's no rock star mentality with it, where like you don't have to wait in a line to meet them, or there's not really a lot of jaded rock star mentalities with the hardcore scene, and that's what draws me to it, is the fact that these are just real people that just play music, and if they're popular, they're popular. If not, they just treat you like a human being, and not like they're above you, which is really, really cool to me.
Yeah, it is cool. It's a shame that is a premium.
Yeah,
it's so often not the case, but and they're out in New York City, Madball.
Yep, they've been around since the 80s.
Oh, right.
Or early 90s.
I skipped the 80s musically, I was a bit busy.
Yeah.
But are they still gigging around the place?
Yeah.
Well, I guess no one is.
No. But yep, they play bigger festivals and shows. They still tour a lot from time to time, as much as they can, And right now, like you said, there's no music going on, so it's kind of flatlined a lot of stuff for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, are there any other bands that I know you've a couple of them?
To switch it up a bit, because I could talk about hardcore music for days. I really, really enjoy like Motown music. I grew up listening to that.
Okay.
That was definitely, to this day, I still put on songs, and I surprise people that are a lot older than me, the fact that I know these songs and artists and stuff. And a lot of that was like my grandfather. He was very, very much into Motown music, and that whole time, that whole period in time is just fascinating to me to this day. It's just, I can't even imagine what it was like to see all of that, and the progression that type of music ended up having on so much different stuff, and
the echoes and the ripples of those stones falling into the pond are still very much with us, aren't they? I grew up listening to Motown mostly because my mother loved it, and it speaks to so many it speaks to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, it speaks to all people I think who work.
Yeah.
Um,
It started some very good conversations for me when I play a song and someone walks in and you know, you just start talking about it.
Are they some of the? Well, I feel like I'm on slightly firmer ground now because of Madball and Death Threat. I want to listen to them now.
Yeah.
You make me want to listen to some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for me, when someone talks about something they're passionate about, it makes me curious about
Yeah.
it. But I was wondering if there are any particular Motown artists you.
Oh God.
There's so many.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it's one of those things where, in all honesty, when I would work at the bar at McNeil's in town, I would just put on, you know, the top songs and just play them and, you know, just run through them like Otis Redding and all that types of stuff that just comes up, and the Four Tops and all that. That type of music, I don't know. It's very nostalgic.
Yeah, but scarily permanent in these days that we're in. You know, I mean, you know, I was 6 when 1968 went off.
Yeah.
And there's sort of massive movements all over the globe.
Yeah.
From the student protests in Mexico City to Black Rights movement and with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all over Europe. You pick a country, and that Motown sound is like the soundtrack to a global.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A global revolt that people were saying, no, we've had enough. You know, we've had enough of this shit.
Yeah.
40 plus years later.
Yeah.
We're still sitting there saying we've had enough of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one would probably be Jimi Hendrix, and because I'm a drummer, Mitch Mitchell, who was the drummer of Jimi Hendrix, he was kind of overlooked by a lot of people in the rock world because you had, you know, that glorious Jimi Hendrix in the front, but Mitch Mitchell was, in my opinion, he was probably one of the best rock drummers of his time. You know, I know a lot of people think John Bonham and Keith Moon from The Who, and those two are phenomenal drummers. But in my opinion, Mitch Mitchell's drumming just stuck out to me so much, and I love Jimi Hendrix. Honestly, I love listening to that stuff.
I mean, Hendrix was my older brother's generation of music. He actually went, by complete chance, happened to be in a bar in North London where Hendrix was playing. It's a tiny little place called the Hudson Anchor.
Yeah.
And there was this sort of, for Graham, there was this momentary flash of a year or two in London going to see all these people, and then he still listens to it.
Yeah.
I mean, Hendrix. I've heard that before about Mitch Mitchell.
Well, I'm not for sure, but I want to say he was a jazz drummer and he just ended up being a rock drummer. I could be wrong, but I know I'm pretty sure he had some kind of background that wasn't rock, and that's kind of what pronounced him as a drummer in the rock world, because he had some kind of training or something in his background that, you know, made him really, really good.
Well, that's talking to people who are involved in music, it seems to me it's much more common than one would initially think. All manner of people that went through classical music training and went off into whatever genre of rock, if you want to say it that way. I'm drawing a blank on anyone that I can think of immediately. But I think Annie Lennox was classically trained, actually. I think that's the case. Sadly Hendrix no longer with us. Or Keith Moon, for that matter.
Or John Bonham.
Do you think there's a particular character type that draws someone towards drumming as opposed to playing mandolin or classical guitar?
You know, I'm not too sure. I haven't really thought too much about that, honestly. It was kind of one of those things that, for me personally, from my personal experience, I always knew I was going to play the drums. You know, like, my mom listened to a lot of different types of music when I was a kid, and I just remember being in my car seat, and the drums were just always something that, you know, really, really stuck out to me. That was that's just what I knew I wanted to do. It was,
Yeah.
You know, it was like, the guitar was cool, singing was cool, but like the drums were just like, that was like my calling, I feel.
Yeah.
Those, you know.
Well, it's the core, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, to get a good drummer, that's what
Yeah, definitely.
anchors it down.
Yep.
When did you start playing?
Probably when I was like 10 or so.
Oh wow.
10 years old, yeah, and I taught myself by just putting on my Walkman and learning albums. I never really got lessons or anything. I feel like that kind of stuff wasn't really of interest to me, just because I was interested in like a lot of primitive music, like punk rock and metal and stuff, and you know that. As I got older, I learned that metal and jazz, they go hand in hand as far as time signatures and all that stuff go.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hit something hard and play fast, and that's what it really turned into, you know. And, yeah, from like 10 to 13, I just literally put on my headphones and listened to any album I could. I just tried to learn as many songs as I could,
Yeah.
and it kind of progressed to there. I started joining bands, and that was pretty much it.
Well, that's. I look forward to hearing you play.
Yeah.
And I look forward to the fact that even though we're in the middle of this awful situation with COVID, one of the things that is heartening for me is that we can get together musicians and record and broadcast.
Absolutely.
You know, 30 odd years ago, this would have been a complete pipe dream, or it would have been something that needed a huge amount of funding.
Yeah.
So there's an upside to that. Are you currently in a band?
Yeah, I am. I'm in one band right now. I'm working on another one. Yeah, so I got a couple things in the works right now, for sure. It's just, you know, shows are not a thing, so it's kind of disheartening in a way, but you know, you can really take this time to hone in on what you're doing and you know, write music and get your set together for show, so if and when it does happen, you'll be, you know, good to go.
So that kind of preempted my next question, which was, do you write songs? How does that process work?
Like, do I like write lyrics and stuff like that? Or
Or do you?
Yeah, I I definitely have a big interest in writing too. That was another big thing in my life, was writing for a very, very long time. You know, I don't have the balls to be a singer, honestly. It terrifies me. I could play my drums in front of thousands of people if I had the opportunity, but there's something about singing in a band that scares me. I don't know why. I just being in the front.
I get it. It's like standing there in your underwear.
Yeah. Definitely. But yeah, and it depends on the band. You know, I've been in bands where it's kind of like, this is what we're doing. I get a recording and I just play along to that, and I've always tried to put my own spin on what I do in a band, even if it's like a little thing that's different. I always try and put my own stamp on it, you know. But I've also been in bands where I've sat down and looked through all the lyrics, gone over lyrics with people, and guitar parts and stuff like that. Even though I can't play guitar, I'll mouth an idea to someone or something. You know? So it really depends on like the project I'm in, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that way of work, that collaborative way of working, if you're working with people that you like and trust, then it can be incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, definitely.
for sure. So we had, I'm just going to recap: Death Threat,
Yep.
Manifold,
Yeah.
Motown,
Motown, yeah. Some
Mitch
Hendrix.
Mitchell, Hendrix.
Yep.
You got anything else to throw at me that you're going to knock me off the stool with?
I mean, I like a lot of 80s stuff, and I feel bad you didn't get into that stuff too much because there's some great bands.
Yeah, the early 80s was a busy time.
Yeah.
With the miners striking and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm aware of the sound.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, there are some great bands from the 80s, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. If I start listening to them, I won't stop. So.
All right, well then, with that, I think we'll call it a wrap. But before we close it out, I'd like to thank you very much for sitting down and chatting with me tonight. For also, which is a great honour to me, was the way that you and Ali so enthusiastically supported us, the idea of Rock Against Racism, and your contribution to it is, in my opinion, and I'm not using hyperbole, I think it's inestimable. Because it's with good people like you and everybody else who's supporting this movement that's in its infancy. It means a huge amount to me.
I'm honored that you asked me to be a part of it, so thank you.
Well, yeah, I said to someone today, I was working with a carpenter, and he said something that wasn't particularly in my realm of thinking. And I said, look, you think what you like, but I said, the one thing that I'll never tolerate is intolerance, and you can throw me in the ground and I'll still be shouting at you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the time that I've known you, I think you're definitely cut in that cloth, the way you talk about stuff, and it's good. So hopefully the next time we get you on camera, you'll be behind a drum set.
I hope
With
so.
a band in front of you, or some of the other people that are collaborating with Rock Against Racism, and we look forward to that as a future event.
Cool.
So
Thank you,
thanks
John.
very much, Mickey.
Thank you.